Hey, everybody. Welcome in. It's 50 Toasts with Alan Rommelfanger, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming. We'll let you guys click and do and join and be. I'll do a few announcements and we'll bring in our guest. I'm very excited. Our guest tonight, we'll get to some more details here in a sec, but he is a radio promoter character. He puts together amazing tours for people promoting their things on radio. I've worked with him twice, and he's fantastic at what he does. And we're going to get to all that in just a sec. Housekeeping stuff off the top. We do Quick Snaps, the podcast, live at 7:30 Eastern. On the Quick Snaps social media platforms. If you want to pop in there and ask us questions and be live and connected and comment, you can do that. Or you can listen to Quick Snaps, the podcast, for free whenever and wherever you get your podcasts. Right here in this space, we do 50 Toast every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Next week, I just booked him like an hour ago, Willie Griswold from the Bob and Tom Show, the newest member of the Bob and Tom Show, and one of the Griswold offspring. He's a lovely boy, Willie. We've hung out a little bit, and I knew him when he was a kid, which is kind of weird and fascinating. We'll talk to Willie next week. Go to patreon.com, type in Kostaki to figure out how to support this sort of thing and to jump in there and get some perks and be connected. Join us at All Pro Lines, all the major social media platforms, football jokes and fun. And the big announcement, if you take anything away announcement wise, it's this one. Next week, Thursday, February 4th. I only do these about once a year. I'm doing a virtual comedy show. I promise a brand new hour from the one I did last year. It's awesome. And these virtual shows, they're not perfect. They're not magical in the way that being packed in a live comedy club is, but they work pretty well. I can hear you. You can hear me. They're interactive. They're gritty. They're real. They're fun. And they're super cheap and easy to go to because you're home. The drink is free. You don't have to worry about drinking and driving or babysitters or anything. And it gives you a chance to support live comics. There's great comics coming up, actually. Todd Barry is doing one tonight. Hal Sparks is tomorrow. Steve Hofstadter's the day after that. Mike Birbiglia is coming up. They just had Judah Friedlander and Judy Gold and Greg Proops. So this is a real thing with real comics, and it's a chance to support comics in the weirdest year in the history of comedy. So come do that. NowhereComedyClub.com. All right, we got people popping in. My brother's here already. He says he finally has a guest with the last name that rivals ours. Great. That's true. Your name looks great on the banner, Rommelfanger. This banner is begging for a long name, and you're the first one to fill it up.
We should have started a law firm a long time ago.
Yeah, that's right. So let's bring him in. Ladies and gentlemen, Alan Rommelfanger. Thanks for being here, man.
Hey, thanks for the invite.
So first off, if you don't mind me saying, you're my first reticent guest. You're the first guest I had to talk into doing this, which is hilarious to me because I've been wanting to talk to you for a while. I had lunch with you a couple of years ago, and I'm a big fan of what you do. And you're so good at the details and the process of what you do. And I just think it's a fascinating thing. But it's funny to me that, because usually I talk to comics who are media whores that would talk to anybody, any day, any minute, all the time. And this summer I even had a sort of a social media warrior who was mad at me about something and was demanding to be on this show and was mad that I didn't have her on fast enough. And I eventually had her on. And so you're the exact opposite of that. It's kind of funny to me.
Well, I'm just more comfortable behind the scenes. It's the way it's always been. And
I thank you. I thank you for doing this. All right, let me see if I can set this up, and then we'll ask you. I'll ask you some questions. So, Quick Snaps. Most of the people who are watching know this. I do a radio segment called Quick Snaps. It's been on Bob and Tom for about 13 years, and I've shopped it out to as many as like 25 different places have had it as a regular segment over the years. And basically I call once a week and do football jokes. It's late night style, topical football jokes. And it's hard to sell to radio because it's weird. Nobody does it. Nobody does that. And also the structure of it is weird because it's for half of the year and not all of the year. And it's only football and it's not other sports. And there's some strikes for radio. So in working with you, it was great because we put together a tour on 2 different occasions. You set me up over a 3 or 4 day period with about 50 interviews.
right.
It's every 15 minutes. It's a few hours a day. It's intensive and horrific and fantastic. And I love it. It's such a great way to get the word out because people get to try it and figure out what the heck I'm trying to sell them. And then they go, oh, okay, I like this. And so you've really helped me crack some doors. And some of my regular customers are from tours that we've done together. So first off, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. We had a lot of fun doing that.
Now, is it true? Do I have this right in my memory that you started this whole crazy business with the Jerky Boys?
Jerky Boys were probably number 2. The first one was, I think it was 1992. I was still living in Kansas at the time. And I was working with a radio promotion guy by the name of Sam Kaiser, who was, a true pro. And he got a call from somebody that was putting out a Cheech Marin project. It was a comedy, it was a children's record. My name is Cheech. I am the school bus driver. Great project, actually. And they wanted to get the thing played on radio. And we said, it's not going to happen on radio. How about we get Cheech on to do morning shows? And they said, hey, we love that idea. Let's do it. Of course, we had never done it before, but we sure, oh yeah, sure, we can make it happen. And so I started putting the word out there, and everybody wanted to talk to Cheech. I mean,
right.
Drug reference comedian with putting out a children's record. So I had him, doing everything from, Stern on down, and it was great. And so a few months later, we get a call from the Jerky Boys label. And they said, hey, can you help us with this? And it's like, yeah, sure, we can, run with them. And so we did a bunch of phoners with them. And same thing, everybody wanted to talk to the Jerky Boys. They were red hot, multi-platinum artist. And
right.
So, just by pure luck, I made all these relationships at radio, never having done it before. And they were calling me, at that point, radio was calling me and saying, hey, man, you got us this, what else you got?
Oh,
and so
wow.
It just kind of grew.
But what was your job when you first? What were you doing when the Cheech Marin thing came to be? What exactly was your role?
At that point in my career.
Yeah, what were you doing? Like, who's calling you and where? What are you doing? I'm still confused. How did this begin?
Okay, now you got to bear with me here because we moved from computer to phone, and I see my phone's running out, but. So I'm just getting a cord, but
oh, okay, no worries. You're a trooper. Yeah, we had a computer glitch, so this is Plan B, and you're nailing it.
So I was living in Kansas City at the time, and I don't know how deep you want to get into my previous life, but I was doing record promotion for a few acts, and I was doing other entertainment related things in Kansas City at that point, prior to getting into the music promotion world, and then ultimately moving to LA.
I love it. That's so interesting.
That's power.
How great is it to come right out of the gate with Cheech Marin and Jerky Boys, and then everyone's like, "Well, whoever brought us those two characters, I want to talk to him again." That's awesome. I have so many questions about how this works. So, what's roughly the ratio of categories? Like, who's hiring you the most? Is it authors? Is it comics? Is it bands? Is it television personalities? Who's using your services?
It is definitely largely record labels and artists, and then comedians. Right.
Record labels and artists. So give me an example of like a typical client. Who are you putting on the radio?
Right now we're doing stuff with Toto, a couple of guys from Toto. What else are we doing? We also do stuff with some of the cable networks. So there's a cable show that we're involved with as well. We do, publishers, music publishers call us, even radio concert promoters call us as well, needing help with tours and things like that.
Right. It's so interesting. Again, for the people who are watching, it's fascinating because there's this whole world of radio characters, and then there's you and your clients, and you are connecting them in a way that's almost impossible to pull off. You have all these relationships so that people know, hey, Rommelfanger is pitching me this comic. maybe I should give them a shot. I mean, these are doors that are hard to open. That's why we need somebody like you to open them and organize them. And then on both sides of the deal, you're sending a one sheet or whatever to the radio station about me, and you're sending me a sheet of info about the radio stations,
Right.
and phone numbers and times to call and fallback numbers, and when you can, little notes like, this guy had a comic on a month ago, loved him, I think it's a good match for you, details about the show and the format. It's amazing. There's so much detail in what you do, and it's great.
Well, first off, this was never by design. Again, it
Right.
was a fluke call about Cheech Marin, and one thing led to the other. And then my company, Daybreak Entertainment, actually really became a full-time morning show promotion company about 20 years ago.
Right.
But, part of it, what you said is all true. And it's a lot of, what I do is not rocket science. That's for sure. It's minutia. and it just so happens that I'm able to manage that minutia. But it's, you've dealt with radio for a long time. These guys are moving all over the place. And
yes,
part of what I'm able to do because of my relationships and these guys have gotten to know me is track them. And, they're in Albany one week, and
right.
months later they're in Albuquerque,
Right.
So, and that's part of the trick.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's an agency, essentially. It's your relationships with these people, and you've come through, and you're consistent, and you're good at the details, and you're booking people who are interesting. So, so how do they, like one of my guys that I built a relationship with, who's like one of my favorite guys to call ever, is a prospector in Northeast PA.
Yeah.
You connected me with him, and I call him every Tuesday, and he's been great to me. Now, he said he doesn't like to do interviews. He basically only likes comics because they're easy to talk to. And I'm sure you have people who have the opposite. Like, I don't know what to do with the comic. There must be, and you get to learn, like, oh, okay, a prospector only wants comics. He's not going to talk to an author. And you must have other places that are exactly the opposite. They would never talk to a football comic in 100 years. It's fascinating. Yeah, right. Way better than an author.
No, but it is true. You have to learn, the preferences of all these shows and remember them. And, I don't know. I've been doing it for so long, it's kind of second nature at this point.
Right. That's so cool. Wow. So what kinds of things do you like to book? Like, obviously somebody like Cheech Marin or the Jerky Boys, some gigantic cultural phenomenon, that's easy to blow the doors open. But short of giant stars, what kinds of things are an easy sell? Like, what's a hard sell versus an easy sell?
Well, morning shows are looking for known entities. So when somebody comes to me and says, hey, I want to get artist A on radio, and they're a developing act, that's really tough. That's really challenging. Right. So certainly, having familiarity is a big thing. Comedians are always great because they can deliver laughs and they're entertaining most of the time. So
right, it's a good caveat.
Not always, but and that's all morning shows are looking for. They're looking for to be entertained, or more so to entertain their audience. They're looking for somebody that's engaging and somebody that's somewhat passionate about what they're talking about. I mean, I've seen plenty of tours happen where they're just going through the motions, and that comes across on the air.
Oh yeah. I've actually, I won't mention his name, but there's a great comic who's actually kind of a friend of mine, and I've heard him do some radio. He was clearly, in the middle of a radio tour, and he was not good. It was just flat and like exhausted and like mailing it in. It's a tough thing to be good at. You have to really care.
Yeah. I would never want to do it. I'm happy I'm on the other side. And with every interview that I do, every single one, and we do a couple thousand a year, I will follow up with each morning show to get their feedback. And more times than not, it's just, hey, it was great, thanks. But I want to know if something goes wrong because, at least I'm aware of it, and hopefully I can correct it for the future.
Right. Wow. It's just such a fascinating job. All right, we got some people chiming in here. Riggsy's here. What's up, man? Ron Milford. All right. Ron Schultz. Oh, this are some of our boys. Rick Wainwright Said it would take half your show to pronounce both your names in the intro. Tony Hoffer says, wow, there's a football comic out there. I might have to track him down. What's his name? All right. Thanks, Tony. That's the kind of support we get here. Are there projects and personalities that you would love to work with that you haven't had a chance to connect with? There must be like sort of a dream client sort of ideas.
Wow. You know what? I've honestly never considered that. How about McCartney?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if we're dreaming, why not?
No, you know what? Knock on wood. The phone keeps ringing here, and I keep busy enough where I never even consider, where who I'd like to work with. It's the most important thing to me is that the phone keeps ringing.
Yeah, that's great.
I'll tell you. Aside from the comedians and the musical guests and the concert promoters, publishers, all that. Occasionally, I'll take on a consumer product, and those are very rare. But I've had a couple of interesting ones. And again, they're just so crazy that you can't turn them down. And these are going back a few years, but I remember there was one called the butt bra, and a lady had developed a product which lifts the butt basically.
All right, it's good branding.
And morning shows just ate it up, And then there was another one. There was the jingle jugs, and that was you remember the fish that would sing on the side of the you mounted on the wall and you'd sing. Same
Billy
concept.
Bass. Yeah,
Billy Bass, exactly. Same concept, except it was some breasts in a bikini top, and they would dance to the music as well. So, but again, morning shows just ate that stuff up.
You have a knack from doing this for so long. You're like, when you hear something like that, you're like, all right, this is weird and interesting and sort of bass and playful. It's perfect for morning radio, right? Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
My brother asks, how do you get paid? Is it from the radio crew or from both sides or just from the client?
I like the idea of both sides, but no.
Yeah, that's right.
Label side. I'll have to think about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what? Go ahead.
It's the client, right? It's the client is asking to have access to the stations, and the stations are saying yes, in part because you've brought them good things in the past, and they're open to having a thing. And there must be some things that are that stations just even if it's a great guest, I've always asked this of comedy club bookers, because sometimes a comedy club will book an act that is a fantastic act but can't sell a ticket to save their lives, and then there's the other extreme where the act makes you wince all the way through but the place is sold out, right? And you must have the same problem of some things that you really believe in that you go, oh man, this is going to be hard for people to say yes to. And is it authors or authors tricky?
The other way.
Yeah, right.
Authors, the only authors that I typically get involved with, usually a pop culture element involved to it, whether it's whatever, Peter Frampton or recently last year I think I did something with Steve Gorman from the Black Crowes. He wrote about his time with the Black Crowes, things like that, and that's where I belong. I'm not out there pitching a diet book or something like that. It's
right.
Not where I belong.
Yeah, right. Ronald Schultz asked, so the clients seek you out. You don't go to clubs and like a scout, you're approaching things. You're a known entity and people are coming to you, right? You're not running around trying to find clients. Do I have that right?
Right.
Yeah. Right. All right. Susan Donovan's chiming in. Took my nighttime pills, but then your live feed popped up on my Facebook. You have about 30 seconds to make me laugh. All right, Susan, that's fair. Welcome. Thanks for coming. We're talking to Alan Rommelfanger here, Susan. He's the guy in radio bookings. All right. Now, when we last had lunch, when the world was open a couple of years ago, we hung out and talked shop. We discussed sort of the emerging markets of podcasts and some of the other modern media that's radio-ish. Have you made the jump? Are you doing some of these other universes as well? Are you putting people on Jimmy Pardo's show or any of these other places?
You know, I have not fully made that jump. I do work with some of the podcasts out there that some of the large ones, whether it's Corolla or whatever. But I, I've just, I just honestly, I have my hands full just dealing with radio, so I haven't found the need to. I think that you do something you do well. Hopefully, I do well, and
Right.
and I stick with it. And I just haven't had the desire to make that leap yet. And again, quite honestly, I've been fortunately busy enough that I haven't had to.
Yeah, right.
And the other
Good
thing
for
is,
you.
my little company, it's me.
Right.
I'm dealing with multiple radio formats, and so there's so many hours in the day.
Yeah, when we did the tours together, I was always struck by the range of radio that was on the list for me. I mean, we literally, what's the little, like, it's like a little almost a country music talk show that's maybe in Tennessee, and it's two women who are like, we're going to talk to a football comic about what? And yet they were great. They were open
Oh,
minded
I know.
to it.
That was the
What's
Mulberry Lane. I think.
Yes, Mulberry Lane. Yes.
Right.
And they were so great. I would have to
Sadly,
do like 2 levels of setup. I would have to tell them all the background facts and then do the joke. But they were really gracious and amazing. And then of course I'm
yeah,
talking to some sports radio and rock formats and all, alternative guys. It's all over the map. It's really cool.
yeah,
Are,
yeah.
are those are
And
those
so
guys
yeah,
still on your list? How often do they say yes? What's the percentage on a show like that?
Well, that unfortunately that show ceased to exist. They were young girls or women with families, and they just decided, okay, it's time you know, to take care of our families. And the funny thing about them was they were actually they were signed to MCA Records. I don't know, 25 years ago, and they had a charted single, and it didn't work. That's as far as it went, as far as I know, anyway. And so they were looking for something to do, and they were local favorites in Omaha, so they just started a radio show.
They were so earnest and sweet. It was great to talk to them. And it's
Yes,
such
they
a
are.
funny contrast.
And they sung you in probably whenever you joined the show. They would probably write a song specifically for you to sing you in. I don't know. Usually they did that.
Yes, they did. I remember that. It's funny the contrast between something like that and like these hardcore morning zoo crew guys, just will not let one beat of air into the conversation. It's funny to get the contrast like that. Andreas says, I hope Alan doesn't use that clock to keep track of what time it is. He's on the West Coast, among other strikes here.
The clock behind me, is that what they're talking about?
Yeah, that's right.
That clock, that was my grandfather who passed away before my parents were married, but he had a grocery store, and that hung in their grocery store. It's from the 40s, I suppose, something like that. So anyway, that's part of my family there. Yeah,
that's great, man. Well, if anybody has any questions, chime in. We'll torture Rommelfanger with some questions here. So Daybreak Entertainment, it's been over 20 years, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Well, that's great, man. And kudos. You got any favorite radio stations?
Oh man, see, now that would be a bad thing for me to answer, wouldn't it? Whoever that person is, or that person will love me, but anybody else would hate me. So
yeah, that's right.
Don't get me in trouble, man. That's the core of my business.
Fair. All right. But the kinds of things you like. Okay, so let me ask you this: if let's say you get a comic who has a Showtime special, they call you, you do a radio tour. What percentage of people are saying yes? You must have to knock on a lot of doors in order to get a lot of open doors. Is it roughly 1 in 3? Is it 2 out of 3? Like, what's roughly the ratio?
I would hope that only because I kind of know the roadmap, so I know where I'm going,
right,
to a certain degree, and I'll always stretch those boundaries. There are certain shows that I think might be a stretch, but you just, you don't know until you ask. And sometimes I'm surprised, but yeah, I think 2/3 would probably be good. I mean, if I didn't have that roadmap, it would be a much lower percentage.
Yeah, it would be a tiny percentage, right?
Right,
Right.
right. But I kind of know, where to go. Right. I hope I do.
Right. We got some more questions. Are there some places you haven't broken into that keep blowing you off and you keep trying? That's such a funny question. As a comic, the answer for me is yes to always. That's part of what the game is. Or do you just shrug at some point and go, all right, I'm done talking to this guy or trying to talk to this guy?
I never shrug, because I tend to be pretty relentless on this kind of stuff. And it, it may not be the first 20 guest opportunities, but the 21st will be the one that is something that they're into or interested in. And then once we start with that one piece of business, that one relationship, it will grow, and they'll continue to look at, what I'm throwing out there.
Right. Yeah. That's probably the worst thing that ever happened to me, was to call a club 50 times and never get a response. And on the 51st time, they booked me for a week. And I'm like, well, I guess I have to keep calling everybody. I'm calling all the places forever. Hey, Jim Stone's chiming in. You probably know Jim Stone. He's a radio guy.
I know Jim Stone very well.
Yeah. From rock. Oh my God, I'm blanking on it. Northern Illinois, Rockford, right?
Yep.
And now he's in Lafayette. What does Jim have to say? As people talk about the death of radio, why does Alan still believe in it? What makes him keep doing radio? Jim's still in radio, by the way. He's biased.
Folks are still listening to radio. It's not gone yet. It's the one thing that radio has going for it is it's instantly accessible. You jump in your car, it's there. And that will continue the case, hopefully through my retirement anyway.
How you doing, Jim? Chime in some more. What's the news with you, buddy? Jim was one of the early adopters of Quick Snaps back in the day. Rockford, those guys were great. It's great to call them
absolutely
every Tuesday morning. He's since moved on. He's doing something in Lafayette, Indiana, if I remember right. He's one of the few radio guys that actually accepted my invitation to come to a stand-up show and hang and drink a beer after and everything. He brought his girl and we ran around and had a good time. I like that guy.
I was thinking
other radio questions.
I was thinking of one of the authors that I mentioned, or that I mentioned that I do. Had the pleasure of working with Heidi Fleiss on numerous occasions.
Oh, that's interesting. What exactly was she selling? Did she have a book or something?
She had a book at that time. Yeah, there were different projects I did with her, but she had a book, and I got to tell you, she's a pro. She's a delight to work with. It's been a few years. It's been a number of years, but at the time, she was spot on.
Yeah, I mean, she had to be detail oriented. She was an agent too, of sorts, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I haven't heard that name in 15 years. Heidi Fleiss. Oh my goodness! It took me a sec to go. Oh yeah. Yeah. I know who that is.
My parents are.
So how's life in California, man? How locked down have you been?
Well, my office is in the house, so I'm a little embarrassed to say it, but I'm a little guilty anyway. It really hasn't changed much for me. I still come in here at 6 a.m. and I leave at 6 p.m. and I've kind of been self-quarantined for the past 2 decades.
I know, it's funny. I've talked to so many people who it's weird. Their lives are either exactly the same and some of them it's even better. They're working from home and they can clock out at 3 and drink a beer on their porch. And you talk to the comics and it's like the sky is falling, anybody in the service industry, the bar industry, music, Now I've struggled to maintain some of these radio contracts over the pandemic. Are you having a similar thing, or in your world they're not paying for it, they're happy to have guests and they're not having people in live, so maybe in some ways it's even better to work with somebody like you? How's it working from your side of the desk?
Since the pandemic started?
Yeah.
The first weeks, first month was a little challenging. Everybody were trying, kind of getting their feet set. Guys were moving into their house to broadcast from their homes.
Yeah, that's right.
And they were trying to figure out how to, do interviews because they don't have multiple lines in their homes. But now, since then, everybody's kind of got figured out, and it'll be interesting to see how many people actually back to the studio once things get back to normal.
Right. Jim Stone chimed back in, working hard, running a radio station in Lafayette. Always love talking quick snaps, lots of Alan interviews. That's cool, man. Good to hear from you, Jim. I miss you, buddy. Now I can't talk to him because he's a competitor in a Bob and Tom market. That'll happen.
To give me a call.
Yeah, that's right.
So how about how you doing? Everything's good with you?
Yeah, things are good. It's weird. It's been the weirdest year of my life by far. I'm actually in Atlanta. We're on an extended sort of visit to my mom's, and my mother-in-law lives about 8 hours away here in the Deep South. So we kind of go back and forth between these two grandmothers who had been isolated, and we can drag along a smiling, laughing 2-year-old and bring some cheer. And they've been super helpful, as far as running around, chasing the kid and giving us a space to be. So actually life is, it's challenging professionally. And there's some things about it personally that are tricky, but my day-to-day life is frankly pretty good. I'm pretty blessed to have these two women who've been so nice to us and so open. So, it's weird. I miss stand-up. I wish I could get out there and just, it's funny to look at Facebook memories. Almost every one of them is a joke or, a picture of the club that I'm working or a promotional thing. There was one today that was a picture of me on the airplane, and I'm sitting next to the engine. It's a picture of me and the engine. And I go, it's weird. On this plane, the engine's right next to first class. Who knew? So it's just like, it makes me miss the road. Like, I just want to go tell jokes and shake hands and have that experience. I miss it so much. It became such a part of who I am. It's not just the money that I miss. I miss the whole thing. That sort of sense of, like, I got to corral these cows. I got to get these cows to Omaha. I'm the only one who's doing it. If I'm not there, these cows aren't going to get there. Like, that sensibility, I miss that. I'm surprised how much I miss that part of it. But
well, that's the difference between you and I, because I would hate that.
I know, right? My mom says the same thing. She's like, I would hate to have your job. I'm like, I know. I love it, and I'm mad I can't do it. I miss it. I wouldn't want to do it all the time, but I have graduated into a place where I could go every other weekend or so. And I had a really nice balance of being home and being a dad and a husband. And then I go on these journeys for 3, 4, 5 days and run around and make a bunch of people laugh and bring home some money and shake some hands and connect to the world in that way. I miss it. I'm looking forward to a time when that could be part of it again. My aunt's actually 86. And got COVID and was fine, like barely even knew she had it. And when they came to give her the shot, they couldn't give it to her because she had just had COVID. So I actually daydreamed, like, sneaking in there, pretending to be my aunt. I could pull off old Greek lady, right? I want the shot so badly. I want us all to get the shot. I want us all to get back to normal as much as possible. But I think it's going to take a few more beats.
I don't know. I'm feeling like fall. Hopefully.
Yeah, I know. Today the news broke they're buying 200 million more vaccines. They're going to have the total up to 600 million, so that as many as 300 million Americans could be vaccinated by the summer. Like, that's a bunch of good numbers to hear. I hope so. I hope that happens.
Yeah.
We will see. We will see.
The girls are doing good?
Yeah, the girls are good.
Girls are doing well?
They're we're seeing a lot of the little one and not so much of the big one. The way it sort of broke down in terms of the universes we're in, the little one is filled with life. Oh my goodness, she's so fun. It's great to see the world through the eyes of a tiny human again. It's been
I don't know.
Ron
Raising
chimes
kids is a
in.
young man's game. And,
Yeah,
I'm
it
not
is.
a
It
young
is.
man
That's
anymore.
true. That's true. That's true. Ron says Kostaki and Indy, February 15th, 2020 was the last show I went to. That's cool. Yeah, that's been a while. I think that's the last show I did that weekend. And then I went up, I did South Bend like the day after that. That was my last live show. And I played poker that night too. And my wife called me and was like, you did what? Like, well, there's only 1K so far in Indiana. I think we're good. I was technically right, but she was right in spirit. It's time to shut down and stop doing those things for a while. Yeah, I miss it all. What do you have any questions for me, man? What's anything else we should cover before we scram? It's great to connect with you. It's a pleasure, man.
Yeah, man. Next time we need to do it in person and with a couple of beers.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm drinking a couple of beers tonight myself. The Monday and Tuesday nights are like my weekends. Still, even though I'm not doing shows on the weekends, it's still the comic brain that Mondays and Tuesdays are off. And so we're doing quick snaps on Mondays and this thing on Tuesdays. And I always have a beer with me. It's kind of like my way to relax here in the crazy scene we've got.
Who are you picking for the Super Bowl?
Oh, you should ask that. I think it's the Chiefs. I mean, they're 4-point favorite, I heard today. And I actually called it Chiefs by 12. I think they're way better than even we're giving them credit for. And although, how do you bet against Tom Brady? He's been so good forever. Enough with Tom Brady.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, see, I'm a candidate, so I gotta go with the Chiefs.
That's right.
I think that I think you know how people are sick and tired of hearing about Brady. I think that in a short fashion, people are going to become sick and tired of hearing the name Mahomes again and again and again. And I just hope that everybody remembers that we went without a Super Bowl for 50 years. Okay, so let's give us a
you've earned
here.
it. Your Chiefs loyalty is paying off. That was a long time coming.
Yeah, we had a dry spell.
I'll say. All right, man. Well, it's great to talk to you, Alan. Let's do a few more of these reminders. Thursday, February 4th, nowherecomedyclub.com. Come see the show. I promise you won't be disappointed. It's weird and wonderful, these virtual comedy shows. They're so much better than you think they are. They're definitely weird. It's definitely odd to have 100-something people in a Zoom call with a comic. But it works and it's fun, and they'll be doing a lot of new jokes you haven't seen. In fact, pretty much all of them. And my wife is doing 10 minutes, and she has been working her ass off on it. Krista Miola will do a guest set. It's going to be super fun. Join us at All Pro Lines. Join us at patreon.com. Join us here next week, Willie Griswold from the Bob and Tom Show. And Quick Snaps, the podcast we tape on Mondays on the Quick Snaps platforms, and you can listen to Quick Snaps wherever you get your podcast for free. Alan Rommelfanger, it's a pleasure, man. It's great to talk to you. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks so much, man. Talk to you soon.
Take it easy. See you guys. Thanks for watching.